Someone DM'd me yesterday asking about where their company's bank account was so that they could get access to their 401k. That is a real story, and that's why this video is being created. Here's the misconception that's killing your retirement. Your 401k is your investment account. It is not your employer's bank account. It's an investment account that your employer gives you access to because you work at their company. And your specific 401k is different than every other 401k out there because your employer will go purchase a plan at a broker like Fidelity or Vanguard or maybe even Principal. And within that plan, they'll select specific investments available for their employees. And oftentimes those are limited to maybe 15 to 20 funds in total. And let me be clear, just because the stock market goes down does not mean your 401k will go down. So anytime you hear somebody yelling about that, that just means they're uneducated and they don't understand what I'm about to share. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to break down 4 specific accounts that everyone needs to consider. The 401k, which we're talking about today, the IRA, the HSA, and the taxable brokerage. Today, let's expose what the 401k really is, why it might make sense for you, and exactly how we get started. Plus, I'll show you exactly how to tell if your 401k is good or not. First things first is, what is a 401k? A 401k is an employer-sponsored retirement account, meaning your company gives you access to a retirement plan, and that specific account is geared for retirement purposes. And here's the key, it's through a W-2 job. So if you are self-employed, you would need a solo 401k, maybe a SEP IRA, or even potentially a simple IRA. But that is not the same thing as a 401k. Your employer goes out and purchases a 401k plan through a broker like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or even Vanguard. And then they give you access to invest in that specific plan. And that plan is limited with investments, but you do control the investments and it is your account. So here's what they don't tell you. You're usually limited to about 15 to 20 investment options. Some people have good options, some people have bad options. Some people are lucky with a Fidelity 401k that has access to the brokerage link. Basically, that's a VIP access to the entire stock market. But most of us, we get exactly what our company selected. Now, if you've heard 401ks are scams, I can always guarantee it was on TikTok or from an insurance salesman trying to sell you an IUL, or maybe a real estate guy. The 401k literally gets its name from the tax code. It's not a scam. But there are good ones and there are bad ones, and it doesn't make sense for everybody, just as nothing does. When I was at Deloitte, I had a 401k and it was through Vanguard. I loved it. But my wife was working for a smaller company and their 401k plan was through Principal. And that was horrendous. The difference was Vanguard versus Principal. Vanguard had phenomenal funds, and also Deloitte's purchased funds within the 401k plan were great. On the flip side, my wife's 401k plan through Principal had very expensive funds, and not the price of the fund, but the expense ratio associated with fund. The cheapest fund had a 1% expense ratio. That's horrendous, and that should be illegal. Plus, because they had the ESOP that I've talked about in the past, they didn't have a matching program, so there really wasn't a huge benefit of using that 401k. So what did we do? We invested in Deloitte's 401k plan, which was through Vanguard, and we did not invest in my wife's 401k plan through Principal. But this is exactly why you have to evaluate your 401k. And my story is a good example of that. So here's how 401ks actually work. When you sign up to work, your employer is going to ask you what percentage of your paycheck do you want to put away. Let's say 10% and you make $50,000 annually. That's $5,000 per year, or about $192 every 2 weeks from your paycheck going straight into your 401k account. And you have some options here. A 401k is the actual account, but you also could potentially select a traditional 401k or pre-tax. This is usually the default option, but 80 to 90% of 401k plans now have the Roth option. And then some employers actually give you the ability to an after-tax contribution for what's called the mega backdoor Roth. So most people by default get opted into the traditional or pre-tax 401k with one investment product aligned with their retirement age called a target date index fund. It's going to have a year after, and they're in 5-year increments like 2045, 2050, 2055. You'll see a long list of those in most 401k plans. But here's the thing, you have the power to change the allocation. Don't just accept the target date fund that you were opted into. And this is why I laugh when people tell me that their 401k sucks. And then I go on to ask them, what investment are they in? And they say the 401k. And I said, that's the account. That's not the actual investment. So here's the 3-point quality checklist for a 401k. When you start a new job, here's how to exactly check if your 401k is good or not. Number 1, check the company match. This is a guaranteed 100% return on your money dollar for dollar. A lot of companies match about 6%, but every company is going to be different. Some companies I've heard go up to 15%. That's insane, but it does happen. Deloitte's wasn't great. It was a quarter on the dollar up to 6%, so not quite the 6% in full. And my wife did not have a match at all. Test number 2, provider quality. Check your provider. The good ones, Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. The questionable ones, Principal or Empower. And I audited hundreds of 401k plans at Deloitte, so there's a ton out there, and those are not the only ones. But I do know Principal and Empower consistently had high fees in their investment products. Number 3 is fees are critical. Check your broker level fees, your account level fees, and your fund expense ratios, as well as any other fees with that investment product itself. My rule is keep all fees under 20 basis points or 0.20%. In order to do this, we want to check this in 2 ways. The first one is your 401k plan disclosure, which will have the broker level fees and the account level fees. And then for the fees associated with the investment product level, you have to open the actual investment product and see the fees associated with that. When you open the fund fact sheet, just do Control F fees and you'll find all of them there. So for retirement, invest 15% of your gross income as a rule of thumb. So if you make $100,000 a year, this means 15% or $15,000 of that $100,000 gross income. Here's how to allocate it. Step 1, get the company match. Let's say your company matches 3%, you make $100,000, $3,000 in step 1. Step 2, max out your IRA. That's $7,000 in the year 2025, but that will change. So whatever that amount is in the year you're watching this. And in step 3, up to 15% of your gross income, make sure you put the remaining portion in your 401k. So if you add up steps 1 and 3 there, you would take the $3,000 in step 1, the $5,000 in step 3, you would add that up to be $8,000 total in your 401k for the year, and then $7,000 in your IRA. So that means you put 8% in your 401k when your company asks you how much money do you want to contribute out of your $100,000 salary. But pro tip for cash flow in this situation, if your 401k comes out on the 2nd and 4th Friday of every single month, position your IRA to come out on the 1st and 3rd Friday of every single month. So therefore your cash flow is always very steady. Nobody typically talks about that. But from a cash flow perspective and how you pay bills throughout the month, it's always better to even out your investments. Now, a lot of people say, I don't want to get rich when I'm 60, so why would I use a 401k? You can't withdraw until 59 and a half. Actually, there are plenty of exceptions. First things first is everyone's situation is different. Secondly is we'll all be 60 at some point in life. And third, there's actually a lot of exceptions, but I'll do a video on that specifically later. Plus, you can't beat 30 to 40 years of tax-free growth. It's unbeatable, and you're not going to find that growth anywhere else. So be careful when insurance agents pitch be your own bank, maybe infinite banking or family banking. These are just buzzwords that are taking away from the wealth vehicle that works and putting your money into a pocket of an insurance agent. So that's a wrap on the 401k and a breakdown of exactly what it is. Education without action is pointless. You're wasting your time if you don't act now. So check your 401k today, like I mentioned, go through this 3-step checklist I shared and see if your 401k plan makes sense for your situation. Next week, I'm going to cover IRAs, and the following week, I'm going to do HSAs, and then finally taxable brokerage accounts. And plus, I want you to check the video below in the show notes to make sure you understand the investment priority for all of these accounts considered, because understanding how each one works is awesome, but understanding how each one works in conjunction is even better. And that is in the show notes below for you to watch next. I want to make sure you can use all these accounts to your advantage. I will see you in the next video.